SwayamPrabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Look at the many ways that you can actually make prototypes of your final ideas. It's section A11, week 11. We'll start with a quote, a very profound quote from Subhash Chandra Bose. One individual may die for an idea, but that idea will after his death incarnate itself in 1,000 lives. Okay, basically if you have an idea, please make sure you take it forward, because it can make a difference to 1,000 lives. So prototyping is the fourth phase of the design thinking and innovation process. So if you look at it, it is part of the building where you make mock-ups, prototypes, develop it and detail it. And then that is very useful for getting feedback, which is the phase 5 of the design process. If you need to summarize it, it starts with research, looking at many places to find information on the topic that you're trying to do. Through analysis, you kind of zero in on a few, and then when you start ideating, again you come out with several ideas or concepts, and then you prioritize it and take forward one or two, and you make prototypes, and then you test it and then implement it. So let's look at what is prototyping part 1. It actually involves what we call as soft prototyping. Okay, so soft prototypes are very rough sample draft versions of the idea or concepts that you have finalized, and these actually help you to visualize, make it tangible. That means you can feel it, touch it, test it, you can show it to the users and get feedback, and then if based on this feedback you can change and modify it and iterate it before you're very happy with the design and you can finalize it. Soft prototyping is fast, so it saves time. It also saves cost because they are not so expensive and can be a very reasonable representation and understanding of what the final design that you're proposing. And both in terms of how it looks, in terms of its forms, and also how it functions can be depicted through these mock-ups. So where is soft prototyping done? If you look at any field that is creative and innovative, they always have some ways of actually making a mock-up of the idea that they are trying to do. Whether it's architecture, arts, music, film, science, technology, product or communication design, or even animation design, they do soft prototyping as part of the design process. Okay, so all these fields make use of it. Okay, in the next slide, we'll also look at how they make use of it. Okay, so that's the interesting part of it. Okay, so let's look at how it is done in creative fields. In architecture, you make sketches, drawings, and then you do 3D renderings, and then you make scale models out of maybe paper or plastic or wood. In the arts, of course, you start with rough sketches of your ideas, then you make draft drawings of it. Then if it is 2D, you try to make draft painting sort of it, but if it is 3D, you actually can make scale models to try to see what you're trying to do in a visual form. Okay, in film also, you do a rough script, you can make scenario sketches, you can think of what the setting is, maybe make a model out of it. And if there are characters, you can actually sketch these characters, right? And in animation, you make a rough script, you create a scenario, you actually make scenes of this scenario frame by frame, okay, and you actually the characters, you make sketches of these characters and finalize it, and you can actually play the scenario, the shots one after another, which is called as animatics, and you can get a feel of what your animation would be like. Okay, so this is all process of actually trying to visualize it so you can finalize what you exactly want to do. Graphic design, again you start with sketches, rough layouts. You can make paper prototypes and get a feel of what that book or poster looks like. Product design, again you start with rapid sketches, rough renderings. You can use many materials, paper, foam, plaster, wood to make these prototypes, and then you can finalize them and iterate it. Even in digital design, you make rough sketches first, you make what is called as wireframes, a skeleton of it, and then you do architecture of how different things are related to each other. Then we do a very low fidelity prototype which doesn't involve no programming. Okay, so you can actually put one after another, even make it look like it's working, get feedback. Okay, so all the fields have some way or the other of making mock-ups. Okay, science and technology, you either start with equations or formulas. You again make sketches and drawings, you make scaled models of it, and you do an experimental setup, and you actually can do a pilot test. Okay, so if you look at most of the creative and innovative fields, actually employ this method of making mock-ups and what we call as soft prototyping to try and test out your ideas. So let's look at some of the details. What are rough sketches, wireframes, and draft layouts? Rough sketches, as the name says, it's actually a rough sketch. Okay, it will help you, make very quick, and you can make many iterations or variations of it. Like here, this is sketches done for Marbo, which you're going to see as a case study later on. Okay, and these are sample draft versions, and you can get to visualize what your concept is very quickly. You can test it and get feedback, and then you can change and modify it before you actually finalize it. Let's look at another example here. So this, you can see that these are sketches done for making a solar stove, powered stove, and these are the rough sketches for it. Okay, it gets a feel of what it is like. So let's move on to what are wireframes. Okay, so wireframe sketches are simple, quick drawn outlines of the interface elements. That means all the elements which are on the screen, okay, or in the digital environment are actually put in one after another. Okay, so these are called as wireframes. They're just outlines of the things. Okay, and you can program it also, so that you can get a feedback on how it actually works. Okay, so again, like the other models, it's very quick to do it. Okay, you have to visualize the layouts, you make use of composition, grids. You can test it out with feedback from the users, and then you're getting on the based on the feedback, you can iterate and then finalize the design. Okay, so skeletons of the design, these are called as wireframes. And what are draft layouts? These are again very rough, quickly drawn outline of the elements of a page, showing different elements of the composition like text, images, interface elements if it is digital, grids, etc., which allow you to compose the whole thing. Okay, so it can be used for both digital as well as the physical layouts, whether it's a web page or a mobile interface, or you're making a poster or a magazine or a storybook. Okay, draft layouts are always nice because you get the feel of what your product would actually look like. Okay, and they're very quick to do it. You can use it for testing and getting feedback, and you can change it, right? So here again, two more examples. These are the draft ideation layouts. Okay, one for packaging for medicine, you can see that this printing on the medicine will help the patient to use the medicine very carefully. Okay, so that's again a draft layout of it, not finalized, and these are the sketches for an interactive exhibition on culture. Okay, so ideation phase. Okay, so you can do many iterations of this. Okay, so this is another draft layout, okay, of a comic sketch. Okay, and you can see that it's a picture driven storybook. Okay, so they have actually come out with 3 different ways of drawing it. Okay, so you can see the first one is black and white, uses one way of actually drawing the images. The second one is colored, okay, and the third one is also colored, but the drawing style and technique is a little different. Okay, so there are 3 versions of it. There's a bit of change in all of them. Very good to get feedback, and based on the feedback you can actually select one which seems to be viable option. Okay, so hope you understood what are draft layouts. Okay, so now we'll go into what are paper prototypes and how do we make mock-ups. Okay, we'll start with paper prototype. Paper is very easy. I mean, you can even take newspaper and start doing it, or you can get paper. Okay, and paper you can actually use it to make many things. Okay, you can make a book, you can make, for example, here a pop-up book here. So this is a sample, they're trying it out, or a 3-dimensional composition here, for example. Okay, so it's made out of paper again. So paper are again simple, easy, okay, draft versions that gives an idea of what your concept are, and it's very quick to visualize it. You can get feedback, you can see how it looks, you can change it, okay, and you can iterate on it. Okay, so paper prototypes, very simple ways to do it. Okay, even for an interface you can do the different screens one after another, keep it one after another and take out one by one and show it to the user and get a feedback. Okay, paper prototypes are very simple. You can use sticky notes as paper prototypes to show a sequence. Yeah, so they are very rough hand sketch layouts of the ideas suited for digital interface layouts, graphic publications, as well as 3D objects using paper. Okay, so let's look at doing mock-ups with slightly thicker paper, that's cardboard. You can also use corrugated sheets for this, and again it's very quick and easy to iterate. You get a feel of what it is. The first one is a sample for a packaging design. The second one, you can see that it is also a sample which is used to make a storage unit. Okay, so you can quickly actually render it and then make models out of it and see and visualize it, get feedback on it, and if you have many ideas on this, you can compare each one of them. Okay, so again get feedback, change and iterate it. Okay, so this is using cardboard. Now let's look at clay. Okay, clay is a very simple material. Once you form the clay, you can actually make organic shapes. It's very easy to make shapes out of them, very quick to do it. Okay, and you can make 3D models out of it. Here are shown plaster and paper prototypes for redesign of a bucket. Let's look at wood as an alternative. Wood mock-ups of an idea can be made and are suitable again for making organic shapes. Including wood allows you to do details. Okay, and wood you can actually paint them so it looks like the object that you want to be like, and you can make use of softwood. It's easier to work with, and again they are sample draft versions of it. Okay, and yeah, again you can show it and get feedback and then iterate on that. Okay, so let's move on to what are scenarios and storyboards. Okay, so there's always a sequence in which an user uses your product or your idea. Okay, so you can break it into a set of sequences, and this is called as scenarios. Okay, so these are the events or actions taken by the user in interacting with the idea that you have. Okay, so it can even be a fictional, scenario, basically demonstrating the use of your idea or concept. You can also make use of the personas that you created to be part of this scenario. And if you put this scenario in form of a storyboard, so it becomes something that is rememberable. Okay, and you'll see examples of it in many of the case studies that we are showing at the end of each session. You'll see that scenarios are created to explain what the concept is. We'll also, when you go to the fourth section, the case study, which is of Marbo, you'll see that they've actually created a very nice story of children playing with kites and making use of this Marbo as an element to communicate with each other. Okay, and the scenarios of the storyboards, can be on written form in text or illustrated with visuals, or it's storyboard with step-by-step visuals and text, and you can also put it as a video with narration or an animation with narration. Okay, so these are the many possibilities of that. Okay, here are shown interaction between the patient and the doctor along with the secretary as the scenario. So it shows step by step. If you use digital technology to connect all of them together, it's not necessary for the patient to come and visit the doctor all the time, but he can be connected together, and you can actually, the doctor can actually help in actually monitoring the patient. Okay, so this is a digital scenario, very simply created. Okay, why is it so important? Okay, so that's the question we are trying to answer here. Okay, and you can see that there are several ways that you can actually represent the initial ideas as 2D or 3D mock-up models. This is great for getting feedback and making changes iteratively to the design, so you can actually move towards the final design. Okay, so again, extremely simple method of visualizing your concept, and we've talked about several methods to do it. You can try all of them or some of them or a few of them to the problem that you've chosen. So let's look at the different steps the prototyping part 1, the soft prototyping involves. We started with trying to understanding what is soft prototyping, looked at methods of sketching, doing wireframes and layouts, then mock-ups with paper, foam, clay and wood, and then finally creating scenarios and storyboard. You can use all of these methods, you can use some of these methods, or you can use few of these methods, but the intention is to make your concept visible so that the user can give you feedback, because it makes it easy for them to understand what you're trying to do. Okay, and that is very helpful in iterating and modifying your design. So let's look at further studies and references. You can look at dsource.in/DTI and look at the tools and resources which are there, and look at courses. There is one on prototyping, and then a few books, Product and Design and Development, followed by Vision of the Future and Designing the 21st Century. All are very classic books. Okay, so you can try to read some of them. I'm ending with a quote by Johannes Itten, a faculty member at the Bauhaus School. Okay, a very nice quote again: play becomes joy, joy becomes work, and work becomes play. Okay, so if you can enjoy doing what you're doing, okay, then applying design thinking and innovation can become a very happy, joyful, task for you.